What's going on, everyone? This is Cam. Great to meet you, at least virtually and not over text like we have been thus far. Wanted to take an opportunity to give you some good understanding as to what to expect for this weekend intensive. So first, you'll see that I have put y'all into 6 different groups. 2 of them are for in-person folks meeting me at the Capone Center. The other 4 will be meeting us virtually. And what I'd like to do is give a good understanding as to what you can expect this weekend. And before doing so, my expectations are really my philosophy on teaching, if it has been cleared thus far, is that really trying to capture the spirit of the work that we're doing, the spirit of social work, of NASW, being strengths-based and adapting, all that fun stuff that's unique to social workers. And that being said, I like this to be student-driven, holistic, experiential. We have syllabus, we have curriculum that is black and white, but as you learn in our field that, you know, we operate within the gray. And that being said, this weekend, we can modulate this weekend based off of whatever needs, whatever conversations, dialogues come up. However, for some framework, anticipate that we're going to start on Friday at 6 p.m. So those are virtual. We will be meeting, kicking off our lecture around then. Those will be meeting us virtually, same time, just over a Teams link. I'll be providing that probably in a few days. Just got to confirm a few things over at Capone and make sure that our network stuff is still working out the way that it's supposed to. Anticipate about a couple hours that night. We'll do a brief lecture just on some stuff that we're doing that relates to this class, macro work, systems, all that fun stuff. And then giving you some expectations and that's what to anticipate for Saturday and the next day. The next day, expect about a half day. That'll be more experiential. We're actually going to provide you with some pragmatic skills that you can use as social workers in macro settings. And then I'll give you the entire afternoon to do some of these projects that you see in Canvas here. Sunday, that's kind of up in the air. I have Sunday morning available. I'd like to keep it open for any and all things social work. It could be related to this class, to practice, to professionalism, to development, anything at all. However, if you don't necessarily need it, you don't have to do it either. So we'll kind of leave Sunday as we'll have Sunday morning as a placeholder if needs be. But if we find that the class doesn't really need that Sunday morning, we can use that time for y'all to work on some of your projects that we'll discuss right now, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here, make that bigger. So you've seen this already, but I'd like to give some of my feedback or give some expectations here. First and foremost, this is not due on the 14th, so I'll change that to later on. But I'd like to give your group some time to work on this. This is, an individual assignment, but you'll work on it as a group. And so break that up however you need to do. But you'll be turning this in a couple weeks. So don't look at this like, oh my gosh, I have to do this whole project in, by the weekend. No, and I'm sorry for not changing that up front. We'll talk more about this a little later on, but yeah, I adopted this class kind of last minute, and I still don't have all the keys and tools to do what I need to do, as I was just hired by this organization not that long ago. But let's talk about this. So first and foremost, please give me a population. I saw that a couple have. It doesn't necessarily have to be from this list here. If you feel strongly about another population that you consider to be at risk, yeah, send it my way. And if you feel comfortable as a group to do some work around that, that's awesome. And the analysis, this breaks down what analysis will look like. Ultimately, this is a science-based study here. So I want to look at the literature, dive into research articles in a library, find me empirical articles that help you analyze the problem here. I don't want opinions. I don't want, stuff that comes from the news media. I want things that are empirical, that way we know it's gone through the rigors of, of academia, of science to discuss your issue. The theoretical perspective that you have, that you're choosing to use, we've discussed. systems theory, touch feminist theory, whatever it needs to be. What kind of theory are you going to use um, to intervene and identify whatever theories were um, referenced in the study? So an example could be I could go into a journal and I could look at um, suicidality amongst LGBTQ plus folks in a rural area. And let's say I want to consider macro or systems work, um, or systems theory. What are the overarching systems that filter down to the individual? And how do systems from a macro trickle down to a meso system, all the way down to the individual person who identifies as LGBTQ plus in a rural environment, that kind of stuff here. Um, Lastly, what are your roles? So if you are the social worker, what are you going to do? What are your macro roles? How are you going to address? And what is your ethical responsibility to empower them? What kind of strengths do they have? What kind of resources can they tap into? All that fun stuff. This is, I feel like 3,500 words. It may not be enough. Um, if you go over it, like that's totally okay. I don't want to read 10 to 12 pages. What I do care about is this right here. Give me some good information that's well thought out and it hovers around this 3,500 word marks. One thing I am going to adhere to quite a bit that I haven't done thus far is that this must adhere to APA. And that is a standard for really all MSW, BSW curriculum. And I will be checking for, for facts, for plagiarism, and it's not on here, but I'll check for if AI has been used. I am not one that says I don't use AI. It's a wonderful tool. I used it all the time. I used it to help with my research and my PhD. However, it can't do all of your work. I think of AI almost like we used to think about Wikipedia. It's something you can refer to, but it does not do your work. And I can tell if you use AI, whether just by, I can see what AI looks like. It's clear as day in this writing, or I do have tools that'll tell me if AI typed it. So please don't do that. I don't want to be that person that's like, hey, you didn't do the work, but just use it in a way that's, you know, responsible and in line with academics. So that's that right there. Again, it's not going to be due this weekend. I don't really mind how you break it up as a team. People could do parts. You can have someone do introductions. You can have someone write it and people review it, whatever. It's completely your call. I'm empowering you to do what you think is best. And then here is your curriculum. Again, any questions about this, like please don't hesitate to hit me up. The next one is this one right here. So digital poster doesn't necessarily have to be a poster. It can be a PowerPoint. In fact, I prefer PowerPoint since the bulk of us are virtual. But whatever you do work on in the paper, you're going to translate it onto this right here. And yeah, put some work to it, give it some thought. These posters you can actually present at certain conferences, and that looks good, especially if you're considering things like higher level, like a PhD, if you will. This is the suggested format. Again, I'm empowering you to for your team to do what you think is best to demonstrate what you've talked about and how you're going to intervene. So, yep, suggested format, slide, introduction, your population, and the problem, perception, what that's done, what you've researched, resources, and pretty much what you're going to do about it. One thing that is not on here that I do need is if you did cite anything that isn't your work, you do need to have at least like an asterisk on there and a reference to another page that shows where you got those sources from. So yeah, a PowerPoint, Canva, whatever it is, doesn't necessarily have to be this. If you want to, like put it onto an actual poster, like arts and crafts style, and take a picture, that's totally cool as well. So that is at least something to anticipate for the weekend. I'm going to give you a lot of time to work on this project, to get together, to collaborate. For those who are coming in person, anticipate at least coming Friday night and Saturday morning. I'm going to give you the entire afternoon to work on these projects. So you can stay at Capone, you can go around the area, get some foods, go to a coffee shop, whatever it may be. I won't be there present all of the time. However, I live here. Like I live like a stone's throw from Capone. So hopping into the breakout sessions, whether it's virtual or checking in on folks, if you will. There, I will provide everyone with my contact information, so you can hit me up at any point. Just you can send me a message on WhatsApp. Please don't, you know, use that our communication for anything but things that relate to um, the weekend here. And then, yeah, Saturday morning we'll do a little bit of a lecture on something that is practical that you can use as social workers. So anyway, I'm looking forward to meeting y'all in person or virtually for those who are, meeting us from around the world. And yeah, looking forward to it. Have a great week, and I will see y'all in looks like about 5 days. So take care.